Of the many Boruto battles in the time skip era, there is one thing that I think is missing as the identity of a Boruto Uzumaki. Why does Boruto never use his Kagebunshin ability anymore? Even when fighting against Jura, Boruto only focused on Hiraishin without using a trick that might be, if Boruto used a shadow clone or Kagebunshin, we could see Boruto with his battle IQ, right? Besides that, supposedly with a Bunshin, Boruto will easily deceive Jura, who is a new entity with very little knowledge about shinobi. Because in fact, Ishiki alone can be fooled by Kawaki's Bunshin, let alone Jura, right? Jura, who is very ambitious to catch and kill Boruto, will have a small percentage if he will succeed if Boruto does not only rely on Hiraishin, he only needs to send his Bunshin to fight against Jura. What is the most plausible reason for Boruto's discipline to not use his Kage Bunshin anymore? But anyway, I don't know if you've heard the discussion about Boruto time skips Bunshin before on the internet or not, but let's talk about Bunshin. After analyzing chapter 23, there is a clue that might be very relevant and also a conclusion about the reason or consistency and discipline why Boruto never uses his Bunshin technique again. But before that, a brief explanation of Bunshin, a jutsu that allows the user to create one or more copies of themselves. The user's chakra is divided equally between themselves and their clones, and creating one clone will give it half or part of the user's chakra. How much chakra consumption is required? It all depends on how much chakra the user has and how many clones they create, right? Because after all, this shadow clone is actually a forbidden jutsu. Forbidden is not something without reason because it can actually make the user run out of chakra and result in some of the worst possibilities to the user. Because of this, usually only those who are at least Jonin level can safely use the standard shadow clone technique. Yeah, though there are some exceptions for people below Jonin level, but have special talents. In other words, double shadow clone technique that creates hundreds of clones compared to the standard version. That is something that is unsafe and prohibited. But then again, for the category of tens or hundreds of Bunshin, Naruto Uzumaki is an exception to this rule. Apart from being an Uzumaki, he also has access to Kyuubi with such a large chakra capacity that he can create hundreds of clones or Bunshin without worry. And from various brief reviews of Bunshin, at least more or less like that. And I'm sure you guys are impossible if you don't understand the basics about Bunshin, because I believe you all understand better and smarter. Yes, sir. Well, after briefly reviewing what a shadow clone is, have you started to see the reason why Boruto doesn't use this signature technique as an Uzumaki? Apart from the possibility that Boruto doesn't have a large amount of chakra ammunition, or even if he actually does have enough chakra to create a clone, the reason he doesn't use the shadow clone technique is because he is very careful about preserving the chakra capacity within his body. Preserving his chakra capacity doesn't necessarily mean he doesn't have enough chakra. It just means he's being cautious. So far, we've analyzed that one of the reasons Momoshiki can possess Boruto's body is when his chakra is running low or when he suffers from severe injuries that weaken his physical endurance. In moments like these, Momoshiki is also able to take over Boruto's body. However, in the case of chapter 23, this becomes a special consideration or an exception. Boruto, who was unconscious for a few minutes after Jura beat him up, Boruto did not show a sign where Momoshiki would enter him. Whereas, when Boruto's eyes were hurt by Kawaki and when Boruto's hand was broken by Ishiki, Momoshiki also managed to take over Boruto's body at that time. And well, all of those facts are actually because Boruto has lacked a lot of chakra in his body. Out of a probability that Koji saw how Momoshiki possessed Boruto, he had learned a lot from the experience when Momoshiki possessed him. It is likely that Boruto realized that when he used the Kagebunshin trick, the chakra in his body was depleted faster, and Momoshiki could take over his body. So, the reason why Boruto never used Kagebunshin again was because he didn't want to be wasteful in using his chakra. But after we saw Boruto's fight against Jura, where Boruto mostly used Hiraishin and Uzuhiko, does that mean using the same as Bunshin? And based on my opinion, the chakra needed by Rasengan such as Uzuhiko and Hiraishin is not as much as the chakra needed in Kagebunshin. Moreover, the Uzuhiko that reaches is purely chakra from the planet or the workings of the planet and not the chakra that is in Boruto's body, right? Boruto, who should run out of chakra, instead gets such a large chakra ammunition if he uses Uzuhiko. By the way, the concept behind creating a shadow clone is that your chakra is divided equally based on how many clones you want to create. For example, if Boruto creates 3 shadow clones in a battle, that means his chakra is split into several parts accordingly. So in conclusion, we will likely never see Boruto use shadow clones again until he can fully control Momoshiki within his karma. As long as Momoshiki still seeks to completely take over Boruto's body, Koji definitely plays a crucial role in keeping Boruto disciplined, making sure he stays committed to not triggering Momoshiki's consciousness. Believe it or not, Koji certainly has an important role in this. After all, Boruto is different from Naruto. Even though they are father and son, and both serve as vessels for powerful entities like Kurama and Momoshiki, Boruto can't carelessly use Momoshiki's power because he's far more vulnerable to being taken over. Especially since, up until now, Boruto hasn't shown any clear sign or capability of using Momoshiki's power outside of karma, right? Meanwhile, Naruto, sometimes Kurama could influence him through overwhelming emotions, but we never really saw it affecting Naruto's chakra reserves. Naruto has an enormous amount of chakra. These are clearly 2 very different conditions between Naruto and Boruto. If you've noticed, even Boruto's strongest powers right now don't come entirely from his own chakra. Once again, he's mostly using a small amount of his own chakra combined with the chakra of the planet he stands on. This is the most efficient way if Boruto wants to conserve his own chakra. And actually, there's another way Boruto could conserve chakra. He should master Sage Mode. Does Kashin Koji have a way to teach Boruto how to use Sage Mode, and is Sage Mode still relevant in the Otsutsuki era? Well, we probably shouldn't get our hopes up too much on that. But one thing's for sure. If in the future Boruto gets the chance to master Sage Mode, we can all agree that Boruto's version will likely surpass Naruto's version, right? So as the final conclusion, Boruto doesn't use shadow clones simply because his chakra capacity isn't that great. And even if Boruto does have enough chakra to use clones when fighting Jura, he definitely wouldn't choose that method because it risks awakening Momoshiki's consciousness. But one thing is certain. With all the theories and speculations about why Boruto stopped using shadow clones after the time skip, there will definitely come a moment where we get the real explanation behind why the son of the 7th Hokage no longer uses one of the most iconic jutsu of the Uzumaki bloodline. Whatever the reason may be, I truly believe that Koji plays a role in Boruto's discipline and consistency in choosing not to use Bunshin or Shadow Clone anymore. Yeah, what do you guys think? Do you have your own theory about why Boruto stopped using Shadow Clones? Whatever your thoughts are, let's talk about it in the comments. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm Nim, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.